Okay, we are in Matthew 14 still. This is part 4. And looking at verse 34 through the last little bit. And we're actually doing a little bit of a recall to another chapter. So let's read. When they had crossed over, they landed at Gennesaret. Hopefully that is familiar to you. You remember something from that. And when the men of that place recognized Jesus, they sent word to all the surrounding country. People brought all their sick to him and begged him to let the sick just touch the edge of his cloak, and all who touched him were healed. Okay, so what is the recall? Do you remember back in Matthew 8, verse 28, the story where Jesus goes across? Remember, he's on that mission to get across the lake, and he goes to where? Gennesaret. Now, what does he encounter when he's there? These two demoniacs that are, possessed, and Jesus cast those demons out. We know them as Legion. Cast them out into the herd of pigs. The pigs go into the water. But what happens at the end of that one? Okay, then the whole town, in verse 34 of Matthew 8, then the whole town went out to meet Jesus, and when they saw him, they pleaded with him to leave the region. Well, okay, so they don't want him there. Remember, I said that the balance got changed. They were terrified of what had just taken place. On top of that, the pigs were their sacrifices and to the pagan gods, and everything was now off balance. But these were Gentiles. I don't know if you remember this, but they were Gentiles. So they were not entrenched in Jewish beliefs. They didn't have, nobody was left there with them to disciple the people after Jesus leaves. He, I think, as I said last time, he basically went in and dusted his hands off, said, I am entering, I'm not here just for the Jews, I'm here for the Gentiles. And then he leaves right after. But nobody is left there to disciple the two men that were demons possessed. So what's transpired between chapter 8 and now chapter 14, where when he goes back, the people recognized Jesus. So they remembered him, and they sent word to all the surrounding counties. So all the surrounding countries, So they knew who he was. They knew what he did. And how did that happen? Through these two that he ended up evangelizing all that region because of what had happened through Jesus. So they became missionaries in their country. And all these people came rushing back to Jesus, and now it's transformed because of these men having become missionaries in this land. And their testimonies brought all these people to Jesus, that when he landed this time, it wasn't a, oh, go away. It was a, come, please hurry, come. We want you here. We're going to bring you all our sick, and we want you to touch them and heal them. And he does. Now, there's another aspect to this is, again, they don't understand all the Jewish teachings yet. They probably are trying to learn about it because of this Jewish man who came over to the Gentiles, which was unheard of, to go and minister to them. But what does it say they touch? It says, and begged him to let the sick just touch the edge of his cloak. Not touch him, but the edge of his cloak. Now, we're going to come to this in another passage a little bit later on of somebody else that touches the edge of his cloak. You might know the story, or you're already in your mind. But that edge of the cloak is very significant. It is called the tzitzit, if I'm pronouncing that right. But it's the tassels at the end of a rabbi's prayer shawl, the talit. And this is also called the wings. It's just part of the talit. And it says in Malachi 4:2, this very thing. But for you who revere my name, the Son of Righteousness will rise with healing in its wings. And you will go out and leap like calves released from the stalls. So what are they touching? The wings of his talit, knowing that righteousness will rise with healing in its wings. Isn't that incredible? So that story, and then again, we'll learn about the other story, which you probably figure out. It's the woman who has the issue of blood. What does she touch? The hem of his garment, which is exactly the same phrasing, the same original language is referring to the tzitzit, because she knew that there was healing in his wings. So it's just powerful that when we go to Jesus, that when these people went to Jesus, they knew that if they just touched that part of his robe, they knew that there was healing there already. Powerful, powerful. So all these little details in the Gospels, and as we read these stories, they're not to be just overlooked and thought, oh, well, that's just an interesting detail. Dive into it. There's a lot of richness when you just look a little bit deeper. So join me tomorrow. We might do a little bit of sum up and see if we can get my husband. If not, we might do something a little bit different to kind of do a summary. But be with me tomorrow as we wrap up.